Welcome to the 700 Club. Israel recovered the bodies of 2 hostages in Gaza today. The married couple were both Americans who were murdered in the October 7th attack by Hamas. 56 hostages still remain in captivity.
This news comes as Iran and the United States may be deadlocked in negotiations over the regime's nuclear program. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
Israel announced today the IDF and Shin Bet recovered the bodies of Israeli Americans Judy Weinstein and Gadi Haggai in a special operation. Both were murdered on October 7th at Kibbutz Nir Oz. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said all the citizens of Israel extend heartfelt condolences to the families. 56 hostages remain in captivity. 20 are thought to be still alive. The U.S. vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for a permanent and unconditional ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas, but did not demand Hamas disarm or release the remaining hostages. 14 members supported the resolution.
The United States has been clear. We would not support any measure that fails to condemn Hamas and does not call for Hamas to disarm and leave Gaza.
As the Trump administration continues its attempt at a nuclear deal with Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei remains defiant about the demand to stop enriching uranium. President Trump is lashing out on Truth Social, writing, "Time is running out on Iran's decision pertaining to nuclear weapons, which must be made quickly. It is my opinion that Iran has been slow-walking their decision on this very important matter, and we will need a definitive answer in a very short period of time." Trump originally gave the negotiators 2 months to come up with a deal. That deadline expires next week. The president is also taking action in the aftermath of an attack on Jewish demonstrators in Boulder, Colorado, by issuing a travel ban and restrictions on 19 countries. 15 survivors of the attack spoke out at a vigil.
I'll say I feel perfectly safe here in Boulder. I absolutely do. I'll say I was wrong, but I was absolutely felt safe. Hey, this was not okay. It really was not okay.
At the White House, CBN News' Kelly Wright asked Caroline Leavitt what the government can do about anti-Semitism.
Can these entities and these agencies work together with the president to put out a proactive campaign to help people stop the hate?
I think the president himself has been leading on this, Kelly, and has been incredibly clear in his rhetoric that he is not going to tolerate such hate or behavior in the United States of America.
The Boulder attack followed the murders of 2 Israeli embassy employees in Washington, D.C. in May, Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, joining us now for more on these stories is Yakil Leiter. He's Israel's ambassador to the United States, and he joins us now for more. Ambassador, it's such an honor to have you with us. In the past,
it's always an honor to be with you. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. It just seems to be horrible what's happening right now, right here in the United States. We've seen the murder of 2 of your embassy staff. Now the attack on Boulder, and it just doesn't seem that it's safe to be Jewish and be in America. What's your message to Jewish people who are living here?
Well, first of all, I must share with you the fact that the embassy, we have a very large staff here, and we're still in PTSD after losing 2 of our employees. They were lovely people, and everybody here in the embassy felt very close to them. So it really was a horrific experience that we're still we're nursing our wounds. And then, of course, the attack in Boulder. I think it's important to realize that what we're confronting here is the after effect, the aftershocks of the 1.5 years of students running wild on campuses, people in the streets screaming libelous charges against Israel, against our prime minister, against our soldiers. You know, if we're guilty of genocide or war crimes or ethnic cleansing, there are going to be some crazy people who are going to take the law into their own hands and shoot people. That's what happens at the end of the day. The process of this growing anti-Semitism stops when we begin by confronting these libelous charges. We don't commit genocide. We're a people that were victims of genocide. We don't commit genocide. We're fighting a war against a very evil, cruel, and ghoulish enemy. And we have to win this war, not only for our sake, but for the sake of humanity, and for the sake of civilization.
Well, why is it that the libel that's coming out of Hamas, it's an absolute lie, and it goes back to the beginning of the war. You know, right after October 7th, there was the claim that the IDF, the Air Force, had bombed a hospital in Gaza, and there was no truth to it at all. It was a rocket fired by Hamas. It didn't hit the hospital, it hit the parking lot. But that story went around the world, and now we're seeing it with Palestinians trying to get humanitarian aid. The headline was Israeli tanks killing Palestinians. Why do I mean, these are our top news outlets. I mean, we're talking BBC, we're talking New York Times, we're talking Washington Post. Why aren't they just putting editorial review, is this factually true, before they run the story?
Well, they don't care. They've adopted a narrative. The narrative is, number one, that Israel was born in sin. We're basically a bastard state. We shouldn't exist. And now that we do exist, we're committing all sorts of war crimes to delegitimize and demonize. There are a lot of anthropological reasons for why this has moved forward within the West. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we're dealing with this calumnious claim repeatedly. You know, why in the world would Israeli soldiers, after we go to the extreme trouble of setting up distribution sites for humanitarian aid, why in the world would our soldiers fire on the people waiting in line? I mean, this is a blood libel, like, you know, using blood in our matzahs for Passover. It's absolutely insane. I mean, the story that you brought up about the hospital. So, of course, you know, for 2 days, Israel was being accused of firing into a hospital. And what does it turn out? That it was the Islamic Jihad who were firing a rocket into Israel. The rocket backfired, and it didn't kill 500 people, as it was claimed Israel did. It killed 50 people, and the Islamic Jihad was responsible for it. This is just similar to the story just a week and a half ago, where a UN official went online and said that in 48 hours, I mean, listen to this, it's just incredible. In 48 hours, 14,000 infants would die of starvation. How he came up with that number is just astounding. But 48 hours went by, nobody died of starvation, and he walked it back, except nobody heard that. Nobody heard the walk back. Everybody heard that Israel's responsible for 14,000 babies being starved in 48 hours. What is that if not a blood libel? And what they're doing by repeating this, ad nauseum, these accusations, is they're fueling the flames of the deranged among the public who are going to take a gun or a flamethrower or a knife or whatever it may be and attack people. And they have to take responsibility for their actions. Stop the blood libel. And that's the beginning of stopping the rise of anti-Semitism. You can't fight anti-Semitism in this country unless you fight the blood libel against the state of Israel and the soldiers of Israel.
In fighting that blood libel, is there any hope of perhaps using litigation? I know in the U.S. there's this Sullivan standard. You have to prove actual malice. I think you might be able to prove actual malice here. But in England, could you actually sue the BBC for publishing that story and spreading that libel and collect damages? Is that a way forward?
Well, I certainly think that your suggestion is worthwhile. We need to look at that and pursue lawfare against this slanderous daily attack on Israel. But I think at the root of everything, what we've got to do is we've got to defeat this Hamas. We've got to defeat Hamas and the tentacles of Iran that are surrounding us. This is a calculated a plan by Iran. It was supposed to be the ring of fire, they called it, the ring of fire, where their proxies would attack us all at once. Hamas preempted. They jumped the gun on October 7th, didn't wait for Hezbollah and the Houthis. And later, the other proxies followed through. We've diminished Hamas dramatically. We've weakened Hezbollah dramatically. We continue to maintain vigilance regarding the Houthis. And of course, we've warned that Iran cannot achieve a nuclear bomb. They can't achieve the path to enrichment towards a nuclear bomb.
Well, let's talk about defeating Hamas. And I think one of the keys is making sure that humanitarian aid, that food and assistance is delivered to the people of Gaza. I've pointed out on this show that Stanford University did a survey of Gaza before October 7th, and they use this term food insecurity, which means hunger, that the majority of the population of Gaza was experiencing that before October 7th. So that's under Hamas with no IDF involvement at all. So in moving forward to defeat them, how significant is it, this new humanitarian effort in Gaza?
Well, it's a great question, and thank you for it. It gives me the opportunity to go through some of the numbers that I think your viewers should be aware of. Prior to October 7th, there were 180 semi-trailers with foodstuffs and humanitarian materials that entered Gaza. After the war began, we were sending in excess of 250. So there wasn't a shortage throughout the war. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find another case where a country fighting for its life is actually supplying the wherewithal for the other side to maintain its status. And it was clear to us that Hamas was taking over the majority of the semi-trailers full of humanitarian materials that we were sending in. But just so that you understand, prior to the ceasefire, we moved that number up to 700, okay? Even though we knew that Hamas was taking over the vast majority, some 70%, and using it to rearm, to restock, and to reconstitute themselves. And people in Israel were quite upset. I mean, thousands of people are sending their sons and daughters to fight against Hamas. And at the same time, we're sending in aid that's being taken over by Hamas. I think, by the way, that Americans should be outraged as well. They were giving donations to NGOs for this humanitarian aid. The NGOs were buying the food and then turning it over through the UN agencies to Hamas. It was a big racket. And we worked on changing the system. And we have the cooperation, deep cooperation of the administration, the State Department, and this American company was formed, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And the best news we've had really in a long time is that the new chairman of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is none other than Pastor Johnny Moore, who is in the inner circle of the religious advisors to President Trump and the interfaith advisors. And he just 2 days ago took over the reins of the humanitarian effort. And I think that we're going to see the amount and the quality of foodstuffs and medical supplies increase daily. We're opening distribution centers. We're providing the peripheral protection, although the distribution centers themselves are protected not by Israeli soldiers, but by people who have been hired, usually, ex-Army people, ex-Marine, ex-Navy, very professional. These people have done humanitarian distribution in Haiti, in South Sudan, and other places, troubled places around the world, Somalia. And as we progress, more and more centers will open. Already, as of this morning, we distributed in excess of 7 million meals. So this is going to continue. We're going to keep the people. If we move them to safety. Okay, the accusations of ethnic cleansing are just terrific claims. The reason why we're moving people is to move them out of danger, not to move them into danger. And we do that at a tremendous expense of our own forces, because when you tell the population to move, you're also telling the terrorists that that's the area we're coming into. They move too, and booby trap very often the area which costs us lives of our soldiers. So we're working very hard. We don't want to see anybody hungry. I personally have been involved in my professional life in food security for places in Africa and South America. I know the subject quite well. And the last thing we want to see is anybody hungry. So we're gonna focus on that as we prosecute this war to win. We're also going to prosecute in a fashion so that people are not hungry.
Ambassador, one last question. It looks like the Trump administration is finally waking up to Iran and the negotiation posture that they're likely not ever going to get to a deal. Do you have any prediction on this? What will be the next step when talks break down?
Well, look, we've been very clear on the subject, and I think the President Trump himself could not have been any clearer. He's repeated several times that the Iranians cannot have a path to a nuclear bomb. It's very important to understand that nobody's opposed to a civilian program, a civilian energy program. There are dozens of countries in the world that have civilian energy, nuclear energy, but they don't enrich uranium. There are no countries in the world that enrich uranium that don't have a bomb. So if you're enriching uranium on your own soil, you're intent on creating a nuclear weapon. Despite what Tucker Carlson wrote this morning, he's just wrong. He's just full of hubris and ignorance. There are no countries that have enrichment that don't have a bomb, and those who have a nuclear program don't have enrichment. What you do is you import the fuel, process the fuel, and then under international scrutiny and inspection, it's removed. So this nonsense that Tucker is putting forward, pulling the wool over the eyes of people. Iran says repeatedly, not Iran, not the people of Iran, but this government. It's a crazy, apocalyptic, lunatic group of people who have taken over the country, who have no interest in human life whatsoever. It's a death cult. And they're interested in implementing this death cult. And they've said that Israel is a one-bomb country. They call us the little Satan. They call you the big Satan. These people are experts on Satan because they're satanic, quite frankly. And we have to do everything we can to prevent Iran from achieving a path to a nuclear weapon. And, whatever we can do, if it can be done in the context of Steve Witkoff's efforts on behalf of the president to reach a deal, more power to him. Godspeed. Let's hope that he succeeds. We think the chances of that happening are slim.
Well, ambassadors, thank you so much for being with us. I want you to know our prayers are with you and with all the embassy staff. Our hearts go out to you. For the staff members that you have lost, may their memory be a blessing to you. I know it's such a time of grieving, but you need to know very clearly that we stand with you and we stand with Israel.
God bless you. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Lots of love. Have a good day.
Thank you.